Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to our Mind Your Podcast show with Dr. Connie. This is all about living successfully with autoimmunity. And if you've been following me or listening to me for a while, I take a very pivoted approach to holistic health. I think in the last 21 years of living with autoimmunity, I've pretty much exhausted all my options. Some have worked, some have not, and some marginally, and some not so much. But what I do want to focus on is every time I talk about autoimmunity with my autoimmune patients, I really need every single one of you guys to get real with yourselves. And because autoimmunity is such an invisible disease, meaning no matter how much pain you're in, no matter how much fatigue is overwhelming you, it's not one that other people can see. And so there's a disconnect between what they expect from you to what you can give. And today specifically, I want to talk to you guys about relationships, intimate relationships, as well as marriage. And if you have a spouse, a partner, whatever you want to call it, it's the closest relationships that can tend to build resentments. And here's the thing. Many of you guys feel stuck in a relationship. You guys are in a rut. You don't know how to fix it. And so it becomes the perpetuating factor. For example, culturally and otherwise, I come from a very conservative background. And what prompted my marriage decision was probably my sickness. I probably, at that time, in retrospect, I feel like I wanted security. So I got married. Probably not the best choice for me or for him. Wasn't fair to him or me. Try to make it work because I was told it's whatever the bed you made, you have to sleep in it. And when you have kids in a marriage, it's hard to break that marriage. And so I always thought in my culture, my Asian culture, mommy sacrifice meant a lot of things. And I remember thinking that if only I can sacrifice myself, my happiness, and my joy, then I can live to satisfy everybody else. And I truly believed in retrospect that that was my role, was to enslave myself in my own life, to be a slave to everybody else, to try to please everybody. The truth was we died inside. We never really had a strong partnership. It was very lopsided and it quickly became pathological. And most of my family and friends will tell you it was wrong from the start. But anyway, I felt very unsupported. I felt very strained. I felt the struggle. But to the normal population, everything looked so good. And so I think I spent a lot of effort trying to look the part and pretend like all is okay. So as long as nobody else knew, I can just keep that secret to myself. And I realized as a Christian woman, going to church and doing all the religious stuff at that time, trying to seek some support, I realized a lot of women weren't very honest with themselves, especially those at the time for me. I can only speak from my experience. So please don't feel like I'm extrapolating this to everybody else. But I felt like the most judgmental people were those people that were pretentious in the church. And I got a lot of judgments from a lot of the things because I was not a normal woman. I was never a stay-home mom. That was never the thing that I felt like was my path. So I've always been working. And my mother-in-law, my friends, and all my church friends blamed me, my ambitions, as something that was making me sick. Nobody understood why I was working outside of the home when I can be at home, stay-home mom, and just be happy with the money that my husband made. And that's ultimately what he wanted as well. So again, I had to sacrifice my own happiness, but there was always this struggle, deep internal struggle. And my mom used to say, because she was a stay-home mom and she didn't have a lot of education, so she wanted to live vicariously through me. And so she always said, if a woman needs to work outside of the home, then she has to do it all, meaning there has to be a lot of effort. Well, work ethics, having been immigrated, if you know my history, is I always felt like never good enough because English is truly my second language. I came here when I was 11, fifth grade. And so to perfect my pronunciation, because I was humiliated in a class where I was asked to read out loud and everybody made fun of me in that class because I was thick with accents and I was shaking and I was so embarrassed, just beside myself, so embarrassed. So I vowed to myself that I would work, or I would have to work twice or three times as hard as anybody to catch up to the level that they were. And it wasn't anything to like, oh, let's go ahead and be excellent, but it was not to get humiliated, just to fit in. I knew that I had to work that much harder. And so the messages and the stories that I was telling myself was I was broken, I was not worthy. And so therefore, everything I had to do while everybody else can just kind of cruise through life, that luxury wasn't available to me. And so I became this obsessive overachiever, overworker, workaholic. Like these were the things that made me, because I always felt like if I don't do the thing, something will catch up with me and that everybody will find out just how unworthy I am. And that's what kept me in the marriage. And I think my ex pretty much knew that. And so there was a lot of that kind of guilt and shame and resentment. And it became a toxic relationship. And he really wanted to create a codependency, both financially, emotionally, mentally, and everything else. And I just wanted a happy marriage and do the best I could. So I complied as best I could until I couldn't do it anymore. So I share my story because I know many of you guys are stuck in a marriage, stuck in a relationship, and you think that's the best you can do. I'm here to tell you, when you uplift yourself, when you finally see it for what it is, and is able to lift the layer of fear away to where you can take a hard look at who you truly are, you're going to find the most strong, beautiful, courageous person underneath all the facade, all the stories and interpretation that the world has shaped you to be. It isn't until you're able to really lift the burden off your shoulders finally that you start to be free and that you start to choose yourself and really be willing to look at truly who you are on the inside. And I know sometimes that might sound a little woo-ish because I used to hate that too. I don't like to show my weaknesses. I want to be in control through everything that I do. But the truth is, when you need help, you need help. And when you need a friend, you need a friend. And when you need support, you need support. And so first step is always being honest about what your needs are. And I really want to take this opportunity for my episode today to really encourage you to think about who you are on the inside, because many of us gave up who we truly are to become this thing and become indoctrinated. And we've become really shaped into being something that would be accepted societally, culturally, family-wise, or whatever your expectations are. And most of us are living from a place of this unworthiness, and this very degrading relationship with ourselves is the very thing that we must look at to fix, to elevate, to begin to look at, to nurture, and to love and understand, so that we can really finally cultivate self-love, self-respect, and self-regard enough. Because it's one of those things, there's a lot of hype about self-care. There's a lot of, messages about self-love. But frankly, we don't really know what that means to love ourselves wholeheartedly. It's being unapologetically us without the fear of judgment from other people. It's like finally saying, good riddance. I just want to be me, and I just want to finally be free and set my heart to be free once and for all without having to meet anybody's expectations. Once you start to do that and you start to choose yourself, all your relationships will fall where it needs to fall, and everything will become so clear. And that's when you really are able to truly feel and experience your own power from within to strengthen you. And it's such an out of body metaphysical experience. And then you finally understand that this physical autoimmune symptoms that you've been struggling with, it really does stem from a deep place of lack of self-worth. Because I can't tell you how many patients that I treat who have autoimmune conditions, they finally feel free to really verbalize how they truly feel. And there's a lot of anger, lots of fear, lots of anxiety, lots of resentments and shame and guilt that is riddling. And that keeps them on a hamster wheel of pretense. And some of us, if we don't do the deeper work of healing, we'll take that to the grave and ultimately not even realize and choose to be in this 3D body of ours. Just see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, and pretend what you've become good at, which is truly not you, but you're serving everybody else and you are going like with an empty cup. When you have an empty cup, not only will you not have enough energy, you're not going to have joy, you're not going to have the spark, the inspiration, the motivation to be the best version of yourself. And that, my friends, is robbing everybody, this whole world, of the gifts that you can bring to the world. I always think about our autoimmunity. The toughest moments of my life, I think about what is the lesson I can gain from that, as opposed to, woe is me, why me? Feel sorry for me, I feel shitty, or whatever feelings that might come up that's so negative in the moment. Recognizing when you step into your power, you can then shift it to really, really foster a better feeling and really vibrate at a higher frequency to where at the cellular level, you can start to heal yourselves. And I think that's the power that's available to most of us. Many of you still don't buy into it. I think you want to believe this to be true, and it's too good to be true, and it's too simple because our analytical minds like to complicate and tell ourselves and hold on to the stories of I can't, impossible, incurable. It's much easier to live in this victimhood. But let me tell you, many of you are paying lip service to wanting to get better, but are blindly living into this victimhood of I can't, I shoulds, and I coulda, shouldas, and everything else, and telling yourself just exactly why you can't do something, specifically why you can't heal yourself from autoimmunity. And you're choosing that option. And again, I'm not telling you to blame yourself for the autoimmune condition. That's not what I'm saying at all. And if that's what you're hearing, please, please, please rewind and hear this podcast again. And this is all about ignore all the physiological symptoms, all the cellular stuff, all the serological things that is evidence that you have true autoimmunity. I want you to go a layer deeper to understand that anything physical realm is really created by quantum physics, which is quantum feeling. It's quantum energy. And so the energy beneath is really driven by your thoughts and your feelings, which then dictate your actions. So I really need you to go to those things, because by default, every day that you wake up, whether you're anxious, frustrated, guilt, shame, or riddled with these negative feelings, they've become your habitual patterns. patterns that Dr. Joseph Dispenza says, it's the book I recommend, is Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And how do you do that? Well, you need to sit in silence long enough to understand who you truly are. It's the in-depth exploration, it's the self-exploration that is required on this journey, which I think most of the scientific doctors, holistic, conventional, or otherwise, don't really speak about. They're now starting to talk about it, like the Joseph Dispenzas and Deepak Chopras of the world, but it's not something that is yet to be mainstream because people don't understand. But if you're listening to me right now, and if you've been following me, I'm living proof, 21 years. I have both the left brain analytical didactic studies, and I still continue to want the evidence-based information. But I also know that's not all of it. There is something much grandiose that we can't explain. And unless we believe in the miracles, we're always going to be subjecting ourselves to the 3D, which is so limited. And many of you guys are choosing to stay in that sick pattern, is why you can't get out of it. If this sort of message interests you, come join me. I'm about to start the webinar. It's in 3 weeks, and it's on, I believe, August 11th, 17th, 16th and 17th, both at 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. I'm going to link the link below so that you can go ahead and sign up for that webinar where I talk about difference in the way you should perceive your autoimmunity and finally be able to step into your power. Because I love keeping it real, you guys. I don't want to just give you all the hooplas or hopes and all the things that make it look good. But I really want to get down to the nitty-gritty of when the rubber meets the road, what does it feel like to live with this and struggle with this every day? And then when you feel so alone and ashamed and feel so guilty and riddled with so much of that, you can't even talk to your friends because gosh, you really feel like you're crazy or you don't know what to do. You don't know who to share it with. Well, that's the comforting place in my small group. And that's something that I've created, a safe haven for us to come and stop being a victim and start being self-empowered healers that we're meant to be. So if that really motivates you and inspires you, please sign up to my webinar. I hope to serve you to the best of my ability to shift your thoughts, because that's always available to you and I. We can choose to believe that this is curable. Nobody else can tell us otherwise. So hold on to that belief and the faith. And I always say, I learned it from the best of my coaches. They talk about STD, which is surrender, trust, and never doubt. Don't doubt, STD. So when you're in doubt, always think about that. Think of me, think of this podcast, listen to the podcast over and over again to serve as a reminder that all you have to do is come back to you. And the power is within you. And without you, nothing else can heal. Least of all, your own physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual body, because we're layers. You're so much more than you think you are. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys all next Tuesday. Have a great week, you guys. Bye for now.